Hey everybody, just going to give a little recap of the Kings and Kaisers game that we had over the weekend. It was a 6-player game, 3 versus 3, and we had some new players to the game. Playing Germany was Hoofbite, who I'm sure some of you might know Hoofbite from some of our YouTube games. We had for Austria-Hungary, we had MooseCow, and then for the Ottoman Empire, we had a brand new player join us, Riley. And it was his first time playing anything that was Axis and Allies or war game related. And then for the Allies, playing France, or sorry, we'll start with Russia with the turn order. Russia was myself, and I was also playing America. Dustin, also known as Deathbot, was playing Britain and the Allied faction of China. And then playing France and Italy was Rick Ku-Ka-Munga. That's his nickname. Oh, and also Japan was played by Deathbot as well. So I'm just going to go over some of the general things that happened. This was an Allied victory. If you look at the tracker, it was a score. It ended as a score of 7-6 Allies, but the concession happened at the beginning. The beginning of the turn order of round 7. With Austria-Hungary. Austria-Hungary commenced with their turn, did not even place their purchases because a giant battle happened in the territory of Kazan here against the Russians, and had the Austrians had a massive army over here in Volga. Had they successfully contested the territory of Kazan, it would have the Russians would not have been able to expand outward and take more territories or contest more territories from the Central Powers, which in turn would have ignited the Russian Revolution, and Russia would have signed the armistice and been out of the war, freeing up the Germans and the Austrians to go west. And as you can see, the Russians held pretty significantly here. We rolled the battle out. The Russians got air supremacy, and that means 28 of their artillery were rolling at 4. And it turns out that I rolled just enough hits, two hits, more than enough to kill the entire Austrian army. So that Kazan is not contested, which means when the Russians would have taken their turn, they would have taken all 3 of these territories, likely sent the cavalry to Belarus, and also contested Karelia, which the unit pipeline was not being filled by the Austrians because they had a lot of Italians to deal with here. And it was pretty much impossible that they would get the Russian Revolution at that point. So right then and there, we called the game at the top of round 7. It would have likely been a higher score differential between the Allies and the Central Powers had we played it out to the full 10 rounds. If I could predict what it would be, China Point would still go to Central Powers. Russian Revolution definitely for the Allies. I think the Allies would have ended up with the Empire Point because they were pretty close. They're at 83. Definitely don't think the Central Powers would get that one. Black Sea would probably eventually go to the Allies. Yeah, I think so for sure. I'm just predicting here, okay. Balkans would have likely gone to the Central Powers. Suez Canal, that one was 50-50, can't really say. Let's see, looking over the rest of these. Cape Town, I think would have eventually went back to the Allies. So the Allies would not get a point for that. They would just, because they start with Cape Town. Yeah, I think that's how it would have possibly looked. So I predict maybe 9-5. Yeah, 9-5. Would have probably been the score. Maybe 10-5 or 10-4. I don't know. We'll see. Well, no, we won't see because it's already over. But yeah, this is what the German position looks like on the east. They were trying to send a lot of force up north to distract me because they were going to go after my capital of Petrograd. They landed in Finland. But this is the battle that determined the game, basically. Should point out what's happening on the Western Front. This was a huge part of why they started pushing so hard against Russia, because I think it was around 3 or 4, the French were in Picardy and the Germans were in Lorraine. 2 massive armies. And the French used their cavalry to pull units from Paris, and everything from Picardy and hit Lorraine. It was a 50, the odds were pretty much 50-50, maybe slight edge to the French. They won the air battle, so they got air supremacy. And that meant their artillery were rolling at 4s. And they rolled pretty good and wiped out a really big chunk of the German army. And at the same time, right after France's turn, Britain was coming into Belgium. So the Germans had to retreat back into Alsace, and then eventually back into Rhine province, and then back again. The Allies just snowballed against the Central Powers on the Western Front. It was really glorious to see. So the Central Powers were in a pickle because basically they had to get one monkey off their back, which was Russia, in order to deal with this two-pronged monkey over here. And, you know, they were throwing the kitchen sink at me over here to try and knock me out of the war so they can deal with this. And they needed the Russian Revolution to happen in order to deal with the Western Front situation. And the Italians just kept sending units up north, every turn, just keeping pressure on the Austrian south here. So nothing ever really happened here. These two armies never fought each other directly. It was just a standoff the entire game. I mean, the Italians at one point did go into Tyrol with a token force, but that was just to be annoying, basically. What else? The Austrians never really took control of the Balkans. They never went after Greece. I anticipate they probably would have the next round, maybe. But yeah, that's what's looking there. The Austrians pretty much had a stalemate kind of game over in this region, but they had probably the bulk of the force in the east here. Their army was pretty massive. All game, they had a massive army in this region. Yeah, so France was on the chasing Germany out of Europe, basically. Took Cologne and Munich the previous turn. You know, sending fighters, railing things forward. It was turning into a mess for the Germans. What else? Just trying to think here. Yeah, by France's last turn, they were making $47 with national objectives. So I pointed out to the guys after the game, I think that even if had they gotten the Russian Revolution at round 7, I still don't think it would have been enough time and money to deal with this situation, because it was just snowballing. They took 2 major cities here, so basically Germany could only spawn new units out of its capital to deal with it. So yeah, that's what I think. What else? There was a little bit of a naval standoff early in the game. The Germans did go after the British fleet on the first turn, and they lost pretty handily. The British rolled very well, and the Germans were building a couple subs a turn after that just to keep the naval arms race going. But as you can see, the British won that one. So probably about mid-game, the Germans just stopped buying naval units. Their Zeppelins were not very successful this game. Right away, they went after my capital in Petrograd, and their Zeppelins, one Zeppelin got through and only did 1 damage. And then I think he went after it again, and I intercepted with my fighter. Nobody hit, and I think he missed on all both his Zeppelins after that. And then I think he was over in the east here. Don't remember what he did after that, but yeah, there were only 2 strategic bombing raids by those Zeppelins, and they were both pretty unsuccessful. Technology-wise, the hot technology in this game that everybody seemed to be getting was trench works, as you can see there, and minefields. Nobody got poison gas this whole game. We only got 1 machine gun, so that was very rare. Usually we see machine guns all the time when we've played. And we've always noticed there's always 1 hot tech every game where it's like, oh, everybody's getting this tech. But yeah, this game, it was minefields and trench works for sure. You got 1 in Egypt here. You got 1 apiece in Veneto and Dalmatia. You got Picardy, Poland. Where else do we got? Oh yeah, Qingdao of all places. That's crazy. The Japanese got trench works, so it's kind of funny. The rest over on this side, the Americans, they were buying lots of tech to loan to the Allies while they were out of the war. So they got pretty lucky on tech. There was 1 turn where I had 4 I had 2 tech tokens, so I roll 2 dice per tech token. And I got 3 breakthroughs that turn. It was pretty nice. But yeah, so the Americans had to help the Allies. Well, they never really got into the action, but they were about to. I think it's 5 transports here, yeah, worth of units to start helping in Africa, because this is one of the key things that happened in the game. Germany, at the very first turn, took its infantry and artillery against the British infantry artillery, so 2 3s versus 2 3s, and they took it. They took Union of South Africa and the major city of Cape Town, so that meant they could build 2 units a turn out of Cape Town, which was a nightmare for the Allies to deal with. So all game, he was just 2 units a turn, 2 units a turn, and the British couldn't deal with it yet because they had to protect the Suez Canal. They had to protect their navy and units over here. They had a naval arms race up north. So, the Americans started to make their way down here. So I think eventually we would have gotten Cape Town back and secured the Africa point. The Ottomans had a pretty solid game. Didn't lose much territory. They got some action over here in Africa. Beefed up Palestine. They lost southern Anatolia a few times, which prevented them from railing through the territory. You cannot rail through or into contested territories to rail 6 units a turn into Palestine. So that slowed them down a little bit. They did send a massive force into Caucasus, and it looked like from the beginning of the game they were going to send a huge Ottoman force from the south, an Austrian force through this region, and the Germans up north. And they had pulled back when the British were building over here. So that gave me some breathing room, because I thought for sure Russian Revolution was going to happen at turn 3 or 4 pretty early, and then the French would be in trouble. But they pulled back. So thankfully for the British helped me out there. So yeah, nothing too remarkable with the Ottomans other than they held the fort. They played a solid game. They did their part in the early game with Caucasus. Secured the Black Sea point. So yeah, what else do we have happen here? The British got extremely lucky with their tech. I remember telling Deathbot, I was like, we really need a naval port tech, and we got it right then and there. Put it down in India, so we were able to spawn naval units out of West India there. And the Pacific, early in the game, the Germans got all 4 of their cruisers into the Pacific, so that really kind of hampered what Britain could do down south here. So Britain, I think I recall the first turn, they built the majority of their naval units down here in Sydney to sort of protect against the Germans. And then the Japanese got a little bit of a late start on their transports just because they had to protect their navy as well. But as you can see, they took care of business and secured the Pacific point. Well, not technically. The Germans do have Pitcairn Islands, but we would have gotten that back easily. So, Japan bum rushed Qingdao, and that's about it for them. The Chinese Civil War was basically an all Central Power victory, because basically from the start they had the territory advantage. It's whoever controls the most Chinese territories, whichever faction controls the most Chinese territories is winning the China point. So clearly, as you can see, the Republic of China, as marked by these yellow roundels here and the green pieces, they are the Republic of China, and they are winning the Chinese Civil War. So it doesn't look like the allied faction here, the Empire of China, would have won that. So yeah, that's this game in a nutshell. It was a lot of fun, a 6-player game. Super cool. I had a great time. I know everybody else had a great time too. Lots of laughs, lots of intense battles. I have to say the spotlight battles of this game were definitely Kazan, because that's what ended the game, but also when the French from Picardy had attacked Lorraine. It was a big battle early in the game. I think it was round 3 that happened, and it just changed the entire tone of the Western Front, because it felt like the Germans were just coming in and the French were just in full defense, building basically all infantry. And that's what changed the tone of the war there. And then once the British started coming in, it was basically over for the Germans there. And then also, key battle right from the start, like I mentioned, the Germans took Cape Town, which really screwed up the Allies' plans in Africa. So, yeah, I'd have to say those three were the most key moments of the game. But yeah, can't wait to play another one pretty soon, maybe in person or a YouTube game with more than just me and MooseCow. I know there are some people who are pretty interested in playing a YouTube game of this. Let me know if you're interested. I think we'll probably want to have one in another month or so. So let us know. Me or MooseCow, let us know if you want to get in. Of course, I've got the map available if anybody wants to buy it. I've got the tracker here, Victory Point and IPC tracker, as well as the battle board. Let me go get it real quick. And right here, battle board made on PVC board, so it's very sturdy, scratch resistant, pretty good material. And I am getting cards made. These are just prototypes here that MooseCow made. They're laminated, but I am getting like how the BBR card deck is, basically the same thing. Same quality, waterproof plastic. I am getting those made, and we are working on getting a physical of the rule book too. So stay tuned. And also, if you need pieces, I make these pieces. So if you need any pieces to play this game, let me know. Takes me a little while to make them. I only have one printer. So to make a whole set, it takes a little while. But, you know, as long as you're okay with waiting, fine by me. So, all right, everybody, take care. Let me know if you're interested in playing the game or if you're interested in any of the components of the game. And that's it. Later.